Hi, Richard Miller here again from Facts for Working People. I've got a couple of things really that I've had on my mind. Some of you that read the blog may have seen the piece I put up about this. I thought, the only Anne Hathaway I knew was Shakespeare's wife, but apparently there's an actor named Anne Hathaway, and she was lecturing white people, and most white people are working class people. She was lecturing us about how to deal with the question of racism in the United States. And of course, the United States was built on racism and the genocide of the native people and the vicious exploitation of Africans, native people, European workers, and so on, and then plundering the rest of the world as it rose to power. Anybody with any class consciousness understands that, but I get lectured to by a millionaire worth about $40 million film star who sorry about that, who is upset about the issue of racism and wants to tell white people how we have to deal with it and cop to our privilege and all of the stuff you hear from the liberal, white, guilt-ridden millionaires. Now there's another one apparently. I was just reading about it. You know, the Guardian newspaper, which was a British liberal newspaper, it's very popular over here because there's this thirst for something different, some alternative to the worst mass media in the industrialized world, in the advanced capitalist countries. And so there is a new, another white millionaire, entrepreneur, petty bourgeois, or maybe bourgeois. I don't know how successful her fashion designing business is, but her name is Bob Bland. It's not her real name, but she was speaking at a conference of young writers here. I think it was in San Francisco, and one of the writers for The Guardian spoke to her, talked with her, and this young 18-year-old Filipino, a Greek woman of 18, she's a writer also, and they're talking about feminism and the women's movement and all of this, that and the other. Apparently this Bob Bland was involved in the organizing of the women's movement, where we saw Madonna and others up there, and other millionaires talking about oppression and racism and what have you. And I'm not denying in any way that bourgeois women or rich women or any other women outside of the working class don't suffer sexual oppression and abuse as women and all of that. They do, but there's a class issue here. And so this young woman has picked up on Kimberly Crenshaw's. This woman at Harvard, a petty bourgeois, a lawyer, who coined the term intersectionality. And so they're talking and they're discussing, and this Bob Bland, who is a female, she says it starts with white people who do know about the history about holding ourselves personally and collectively accountable, then making it our mission to educate other white people in ways that they're showing up in the world in problematic ways. And you know what? And the young 18-year-old says, I definitely think that there has been a lack of intersectionality. There's also been exclusivity, especially towards women of color and all this. This is the white millionaires, entrepreneurs. This woman Bland has some fashion business, considers herself a member of the entrepreneurial class, lecturing white workers about how we need to cop to our privilege and step to the forefront. Never mind that most of the white workers I've known in my working life in this country, she wouldn't come near them with a barge pole. She wouldn't mix with them. This 18-year-old looks to not having to mix with them. If she comes from the working class and she's a mixed person, she wants to make sure she gets out of it. Anne Hathaway, she's talking, another one lecturing white people as we, as our people. She doesn't speak for me. She doesn't speak for any of the white working class I know. She doesn't speak for the white workers that have lost their jobs, that have had their wages cut in half, for the white people in Virginia who are living in a basket case situation. She doesn't speak for any of them, although she does speak for them. And so I just wanted to raise this about these white millionaires. And in relation to Hathaway, she had this do-nothing parasitic boyfriend and sailed around the Saint-Tropez and the Mediterranean and one of his yachts or one of his friends' yachts or whatever. These are the white people telling the white working class how we have to deal with the question of racism. I reject these people, and most white workers will reject these people, and they will not help the white working class in any way whatsoever, including those who do need help in relation to overcoming the racial barriers in this country, the division that is the white-black division that is set up and fostered by the ruling class in this country to weaken working class unity. And so that's one of the things I wanted to comment on. And I do say to I work in a very diverse workplace. I work with white workers, I work with black workers. Most of the white workers I know were not, and probably are not Trump supporters. Some of them might be, some of them might not be. But the question is that we don't need to be lectured to by these millionaires, whites who know nothing about what working class life is like. They don't speak for us. But if we don't want them to speak for us, then we have to speak, and we have to become more prominent in the struggle against racism, in openly condemning it, in openly I was at that little rally in MacArthur Bart Station for that young black girl that was killed by that white dude, and there were whites there. They were mostly white political types, petty bourgeois types in the main, and it's good that they're there. But my view on that section of the white societies, you can't trust them in the long run. But it's perfectly valid to criticise the white working class for being absent in these situations. We shouldn't be absent in these situations. Part of the reason for that is the leadership of the trade union movement, as we always say on our blog, who are also absent. They should have been at that rally as well. But an interesting thing happened to me at that rally that was a very pleasing experience. I got talking to a woman. She's on the video on the piece I put on the blog. Well, she was talking to me mostly. She was very angry, upset. I think she was a friend of the family of the young girl, and she was very angry and very vocal. She wasn't angry at me. She was raising all the right points. And I was listening to her, and I commented a little bit, but I was listening to her, and I see this white woman coming round the corner, and I got my ace hat. Well, this isn't an ace hat. I got my ace hat on, and I know why she was making a beeline for me. I'm a white guy with a baseball cap. Most of the whites there who don't wear baseball caps, because that's a sort of signifying you're from the white working class. She had me pigeonholed, and she was working her way toward me. And she came round, and as this black woman was talking to me, and she was loud and aggressive and angry, and like I say, she wasn't angry at me. I never felt threatened. None of the black people there threatened me. This white woman comes round, and she interjects, but she speaks to me and is about to say to me, I caught a couple of words, oh, you shouldn't be speaking here. You should leave. But basically, that this is their people's place. It's their grief, blah, blah, blah. Well, I've got no time for those people. They can piss off as far as I'm concerned. But as it was, the black woman turned to her and she tore into her. Don't you speak for me. You have no right to tell me who I talk to. You don't speak for me. And of course, the woman fluttered away, and I said, she's a white liberal. Pay no attention to her. It was a really nice experience that this black woman tore this woman a new one. And the last little piece of this segment is I used to feel sorry, and when I say this, I know some of the brothers at work are going to laugh. I used to feel sorry sometimes for when we worked in really depressed neighborhoods. I worked for a public utility. I worked in the streets of Oakland, and sometimes we'd work in very depressed neighborhoods. And, we'd be in the street. I was with sometimes white guys that live in the suburbs, live in Pittsburgh, Antioch, or whatever. And we'd be in the street, and there's a liquor store down the road, and there's a bunch of young guys hanging out there. And anybody knows some of those kids have been, or young men have been declassed, they're lumpen. Some of them are righteous thugs. To say they're not, it would be anybody that's lived in those communities, and I have, know that. But we all have sympathy with them, those that have lived in those communities and understand why they're there. And so, I would walk up to the liquor store, and they'd be all hanging out, and the first thing I'd do, I'd speak to them. Hey guys, we're just up at the road here fixing this leak. And that was a conscious thing on my part. I got an English accent. And as soon as I spoke, you could see the natural human inquisitiveness from these young guys. Man, where you from? Sometimes it was like France or something, but whatever, they could tell I was not a white American. And so I'd say I was from England. They'd ask me things about England, or they might know something about England. If they were into hip hop, they might know some English artists. Are there black people there? They'd start to ask me questions, or how many black people are there? And I'd have a conversation with them. So I could, what my accent did was it completely changed the relationship with them. And what they saw, they didn't see a white American. I got a break that my white American co-workers didn't get, native-born workers didn't get. I got a break because the natural human inquisitive came out. We had a little bit of a chat, and the colour issue, which shows to me the colour question's not the main issue. The real issue is the social role and the history in this country, and so I used to feel a bit sorry because sometimes, and also I'm a political person. I've been political for some years, or active in the unions. I've learned things from that, learned how to deal with certain issues. And, I used to feel sorry for particularly one of the guys. He's one of the guys we used to joke with him. We'd say, what time do you want to meet, 6 o'clock or 5:45? And, he was a nice guy and everything. But also, a lot of the white workers just would not have known how to deal with that tension, with that anger. They just wouldn't have known how to deal with it. They'd have got defensive. The black kids have got defensive. Black youth at the corner, and it's just a no-win situation for everybody. I was exempted from that, and it just shows me that the issue is obviously not the color of the skin. I'm as white as the others, and it's what those types like Anne Hathaway, Bob, whatever her name is, that organise the women's marches. It's what they don't understand. And the funny thing is, we all work together. I had a lot of black co-workers. And when I worked in the streets, and even when I went out at night, sometimes we'd go out together, and the black co-workers would take care of you. They're white co-workers in communities where generally whites wouldn't go. If we were together, they would take care of each other. There was a solidarity with each other, and it's something these white I call them just white petty bourgeois, guilt-ridden characters don't understand. They don't speak for us. And there's a lot of white workers would justifiably be angry at being told by them how they should deal with racism. I do want to stress, as an end to this little commentary, that first and foremost, the predominant blame lies with the heads of the trade union movement, who have the ability and the social power and the structure to change that situation. They're pretty absent. When I went to this memorial for that young girl, they should have been there. The labour movement here has potential power, a lot of potential power. They should have been there, talking about how racism is harmful to all workers, about how we need jobs, about the depression in Oakland, which is a mile or two to the north from here. A depressed area. It'll never change. It's been that way the 44 years I've been here. It will never change. It's been little changes, but it will never fundamentally change. And so they hold a lot of responsibility, and also we do as individuals. If we want to transform the situation, we have to go to things like that. Don't watch them on the news, because I know most white workers I've worked with would sympathise with this. But you got to turn out, you got to speak up. You can't be silent. That sign you often see is silence is assent or silence. There's a placard you see at some of these from some folks about white silence, and that's true. But anyway, these are just a couple of things. I'm going to look at it and see if it's worth putting on the blog just to share with other working class people. And it's Richard Miller, Facts for Working People. Keep reading the blog. We're doing very well. 30 to 40,000 views a month in many different countries as well. Algeria, Argentina, Ireland, Pakistan, India, South Africa. These are countries where we're beginning to get more readers. So keep our blog going. Donate some money if you can, because we need it. All right, thank you, and talk to you again. Bye.